you for coming. This is the New Orleans Game Dev Meetup. My name is Curtis. I stand in front of here and set up all this stuff and live stream everything. Welcome to the Game Dev Meetup. We're part of NOGD, New Orleans Game Dev. We're a 501c3 registered nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering the game development industry here in New Orleans. And that involves hosting community events like this one. We have a bi-weekly show and tell that is coming back soon that takes place at Sea Cave Arcade. We host this meetup, which takes place the third Thursday of every month, right here at the Shop Workspace at the CAC. It's very beautiful, very nice. Usually we're down there where all those people in the suits and stuff are, but apparently, those people are in suits and stuff. We're scraggly game developers. We come up here. They get the big area. That's just the way of the world. If you've come here and you're not part of our Discord, it would be kind of weird, but thank you for coming. But you can scan this QR code and you can join our Discord. And then you can hear more about the events that take place with at least a week advance notice. Sometimes like 4 days, but we get better at it as the years go by. We have meetups. We have game jams. I don't think I even mentioned the game jams, but it's important that I mention it because we're the host of the New Orleans Global Game Jam. We host seasonal game jams. Our most recent game jam was the pig jam. Yeah, we roast a pig, and people have until the pig's roasted to make a game. It's like 12-ish hours, less than that, being perfectly honest. Yeah, it's a beautiful disaster, and I love it, and it's the greatest thing I've ever done with my life. Our one community announcement is that Sea Cave is reopening. Sea Cave went through some business nonsense, and it's closed for a while, but now it is back open, or it will be back open tomorrow. So if you're not doing anything tomorrow night, go by Sea Cave. That's where we have show and tell. It's where we just like to hang out, so it's a cool place. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is introduce our speaker, who comes to us from the faraway land of Baton Rouge, Mr. Jason Tate of Pixel Dash, and we're gonna go ahead and welcome. And you can plug this thing into your computer.
Sounds very sketchy. Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of sketchy.
What does it do?
It just like downloads everything in your hard drive and sends it to the Chinese government.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you press the button and then it'll pop up on the TV. I don't know how this technology works.
Is this gonna work? What does this mean? What does this do? Is this for sharing my screen?
Yeah. It's for connecting to the screen back there. Yeah, and just when it asks for your social security number and stuff.
Do I have to install this?
While Jason's doing that, I'm gonna I have a little community announcement here.
Oh yeah.
So work in tech. If anyone's looking for a job in any tech,
Chris.
yes.
Look into this.
Hey, I'm just gonna provide a quick community announcement. This is Chris Morrison of the NOGD. In case anyone's looking for work at the moment, GNO Inc. Our friends over at GNO Inc. and Work in Tech are having a tech talent den on January 9th at NOLA Brewing. I don't have a link for you, but if you Google Work in Tech or Tech Talent Den, you will find their website and you'll be able to register for the event sometime in December.
We'll post it on Discord.
We will also post it on Discord. Thank you, Ben.
Excellent. We have a presentation here.
we have an office in Baton Rouge as well as in New Orleans, where we are currently at right now at the shop. And so we have a team of about 20 to 25 people, basically working across co-development as well as original games. And I'll be sure to tell you more about that later. But today my talk is titled The Quest to Find a Publisher. So I'll be talking to you essentially what I've been doing for the last few months as we're trying to find a publisher for our game. It is the quest to find a publisher, which I have not yet completed. So this is not a talk about how to successfully get a publisher. My apologies, I don't have that expertise to share with you. However, also I'd like to apologize in advance for my amazing visuals in this presentation. This is essentially the high level what I'm going to be talking about. I'll share some helpful resources about finding a publisher and all the things that I've learned. If you yourself might be interested in finding a publisher for your game, what do you need to find a publisher and to get started, and then what to do when that time is here. So there'll be some QR codes. I'm totally just sitting directly in front of the screen, but some helpful links to different things throughout my presentation that I found useful. So to start with, I'm gonna just go over, you're starting from nothing and you wanna find a publisher, where to go. These are some of the resources that I used. The number one suggestion, which is something called Indie Game Business, which you can find at indiegamebusiness.com. So this is an organization, actually it's run by Jay Powell from the Powell Group, who is a game consultancy based in, I believe, North Carolina. But he's created this amazing resource for indie developers, which really has a number of different things that I would recommend that you do. So this website, which has a number of different resources that you can go to. So there's a Discord, Indie Game Business, that I recommend joining. Essentially, it has a huge community of people that are all looking for, publishers or creating indie games, looking for people to help them out. And so this Discord, if you have any questions or you're trying to start your journey, this is like a really great place where you can just go in, ask questions. And on the Discord, they have like pitch reviews where they'll review your pitch. If you have questions about like lawyers or marketing your game, all this stuff, there's a lot of fantastic resources on this Discord. So I highly recommend that. They also have a lot of free videos. So there's a YouTube channel where they just do tons of free content with publishers and game developers that are talking about all kinds of indie game business stuff, which a lot of it is about finding publishers or what publishers are looking for and that sort of content. They do conferences as well. They have something called the IGB sessions, where it's actually like a free online conference where you can go and see all the talks from the different industry professionals and people. And there's also a small fee for like a paid element too, where you can do networking and connect with publishers and things like that, all online and virtually. So highly recommend this as a starting point if you're interested in finding a publisher. This here is another great link. It's called the Game Maker Toolkit Notebook. This one doesn't have a URL. It's just a Google Doc, basically. But it is, this is not the right document. It is 171 pages of amazing information for game makers. And so you can see this is just this is like all the information you have here, and this is just the outline. But they have a huge section on here for business. So if you go to page 89 of this 171 page document, there's like tons of useful information on here, and some of the stuff I'm going to talk about comes from here. So this is everything from places where you can find funding, how to contact publishers, what finding a list of publishers, all sorts of stuff on here. There's guides for pitch decks, etc. So this is like the one master document that I only learned about a couple months ago that has been super helpful. So what do you need if you want to find a publisher? Well, the most obvious thing is you need to have a game. So there is some people might think, if you're trying to make a game, you have an idea, maybe you have a design document or like a pitch, and you're like, I'm going to go pitch this to publishers. Not really a good starting point. What you really need before you do that, before you reach out to any publisher, number one is a game demo. And so there's maybe some debate and different publishers that look for different things, but most publishers will look for, at minimum, a playable prototype of your demo. A lot of publishers will be looking for a vertical slice. I've had some publishers who's like, oh, you have a prototype? That's cute. Come back to me when you have a vertical slice. And like, won't even play our demo. So definitely highly recommend you need to have a game demo. It needs to be pretty well polished. You may or may not know, and maybe we could have started this, right now is not a good time to try to find a publisher. Of course, this is the exact time that we are trying, but it is, as you may have seen, the industry is really tough right now. There's a lot of publishers that are doing layoffs or just cutting back on their funding. And so things are pretty competitive out there. So essentially, we're at a time right now where you need to have something really awesome to impress the publisher. So the better your demo, the more likely you have a chance to actually sign a deal. So certainly, I would say of all of these things, you want to spend like 90% of your time making a really awesome game. And then once that is at a point where you have a really cool demo to show, then you can come back to essentially everything else I'm about to talk about in this presentation. So once you have your game, hopefully it's awesome. The next thing you need is a pitch deck. So pretty much any publisher you reach out to, the number one thing they're going to want to see is a pitch deck. The number two thing is probably the demo. So the thing you should spend your second most time on is the pitch deck. And I have a link here for a pitch outline. So the Game Maker Toolkit has several references for different pitch guides. You can also see several publishers actually also release their own suggested pitch formats. And so it kind of depends on which publisher you're reaching out to as well. We've had to kind of create special versions of our pitch deck for special publishers or special companies that require certain information. But this is like a really high level example of like what your pitch should be. And I will give you a chance after this to show you what our pitch deck looks like. Our pitch deck does not necessarily follow this exact format. So there's certainly a lot of different ways you can do it, but it's just a quick outline. You need to have an awesome cover art. Essentially your pitch needs to be, unlike my presentation currently, very visually striking is better. So something that really represents your game, it has a really cool look to it. Your game overview, a video of your game, ideally from, something from your demo or something that really represents what your game would be, your unique selling points, a slide about traction, which is an interesting one. So this is not something we did yet, but a lot of publishers, and especially as the market has gotten tougher and tougher, publishers are looking for games that already have traction. So you can't just have a great demo and a game that no one's ever seen before. You also have to release your demo onto Steam, get people to play it, have some amount of wish lists. Maybe you have a video that's public that you can show has a certain number of views and that sort of thing. Certainly, maybe you have a Discord. Maybe you have all these things. It's certainly, I would say, a lot of people recommending nowadays to sort of go that process where you're kind of self-publishing to start with, and you're really raising awareness about your game and gaining traction that way before you go to publishers. It's not required, but it also kind of depends on your experience. If you have no experience and you've never released a game before, then you pretty much have to do that, because otherwise publishers won't believe that you really are going to do what you say you can. You know, for us, for example, we have some traction really just with our previous games that we've made, and that's mostly what we can talk about. Business model, is it a premium game? Is it a free game, etc.? You know, publishers definitely going to want to know how you're going to monetize, as well as competitive analysis. This one is certain publishers want to see that more than others, especially investors who might be a little more on just the investment side rather than the publishing side. But they want to see, you know, other games that you think are similar to yours and what their sales were like, so they can kind of get an idea of what you might expect. That includes the price point. You want to think about what your price is. Every single publisher I've ever talked to is like, what's your price going to be when you sell? Because that's kind of how they judge also, like how much money they can make, how much they need to invest. You know, if it's a $10 game versus a $30 game, could be very different. Production timeline. Essentially, they want to know your schedule for, you know, how you plan to make the game, which ultimately comes down to the ask here as well. You're going to be asking for a certain amount of money. In most cases, if you don't need money to make your game, there is maybe a discussion of whether you need a publisher or not. It's probably a whole separate conversation. But yeah, in most cases, if you're pitching for publishers, it's because you're trying to get money to develop the game, and therefore you need a production timeline and a team size, et cetera, that kind of like shows where that money is going. Anyway, that is the pitch deck. So with that, I will now share our pitch deck with you. I'll be pitching this in a similar way to what we do to publishers, although it'll just be me pitching and not the rest of my team. So I apologize for it being worse than usual. So in any case, yeah, I'll pretend you guys are a publisher. So thanks everyone for meeting with us today. Certainly appreciate it. I hope you'll give me some money. No, I don't normally start with that. You should. So yeah, we're gonna share a little bit today. We start with talking about our company, then we'll move on to talking about our game, and then finally I'll show you a live demo, and then afterwards you'll be able to I'll be able to, normally I'll tell the publisher, I'll send you the build so you can play it, but actually if anybody just wants to come by after my presentation and play, please come and check it out. So yes, we are Pixel Dash Studios, original IP and co-dev studio. We're based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana since 2011. We have a team of about 25 developers working on projects across all platforms, PC, console, mobile, and VR. We've worked with a number of notable repeat clients on the co-dev side, most notably In Exile Entertainment, who's one of the Microsoft game studios, obviously right here in New Orleans. We've actually done co-development with them on 3 games that we've shipped, as well as now working on our 4th title, Clockwork Revolution, with them. We're also have worked with Status Pro, developing NFL Pro Era, which is the only officially licensed NFL VR game. We've been working with them on all three games that they've released, most recently Pro Era 2025. And in addition to that, we've also worked with WayForward Technologies, Pipeworks Studios, amongst others, on numerous repeat projects. When it comes to original IP, our passion as a studio comes from our shared love of games that we played in the 80s and 90s. We look to develop games from that era, but keeping the core spirit of those titles, but modernizing them and bringing them to modern audiences while still maintaining the nostalgia of the originals. One of our most successful original IP is Road Redemption. It's a motorcycle combat game that we developed as the spiritual successor to Road Rash, which we loved playing on the Sega Genesis in the 90s. It combines the high-speed racing with beat-em-up combat, taking that classic Road Rash experience to the next level with modern 3D graphics, wild physics crashes, and online multiplayer. Road Redemption was crowdfunded via Kickstarter. We self-published it on Steam Early Access. It was later published by Tripwire Interactive on consoles, and it's now sold over 1.7 million units on PC and console. We've also released a mobile version on iOS and Android, which currently has a 4.5-star rating on the App Store. And so when we were looking to develop our next title, we wanted to build on that experience, vehicle combat, but also do something fresh and new. And we were inspired to modernize another classic genre that we enjoyed in the same way that we did with Road Redemption, modernizing Road Rash. So today I'll be sharing with you our new game that we have in development. It's titled Gunmetal Overdrive. It's an old school top-down arcade style vehicle shooter inspired by classic games that we love from the 80s and 90s like Jungle Strike and Jackal, but modernized and reimagined as a modern 3D roguelite action game. So Gunmetal Overdrive builds on our studio's experience with vehicle combat games, but this time it's focusing on a retro top-down shooter genre. It felt like a natural fit to combine the roguelite format with the top-down vehicle-based action, creating a fresh mashup of the genres while maintaining the core appeal of each. In the game, you're a military operator dropped on a hostile enemy territory on an island, and you're in an armored vehicle and tricked out with powerful weapons and gear. Your goal is to destroy the enemy forces, rescue prisoners, and recover lost relics, as well as battle epic boss creatures that are controlled by the enemy. The gameplay is a combination of open road vehicle combat filled with fast-paced straightaway racing and vehicle chase encounters and lots of destruction along the way, but also mixed in with intense, almost survivor-like swarm encounters where you're battling more in confined areas with dense objectives, enemies, action. As you progress through the game, you pick up a mix of stackable tech and mystical upgrades to ramp your vehicle's power. And as a roguelite, you'd be prepared to die over and over and try again, where you return to an upgradable base, regroup, re-equip, and head out on another mission. And lastly, last thing to mention, this game is made to be played both solo and co-op, either in split screen or peer-to-peer online. So our story is essentially, the high concept is G.I. Joe meets Skull Island with a dash of Stargate. We're all big fans of action movies and TV shows from the same era, 80s, early 90s. Things like G.I. Joe, Predator, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and others like that combine military action with a sci-fi twist. So in this game, it draws inspiration from these types of movies. And there's a sinister global terror organization. You can think of Cobra from G.I. Joe. And they're amassing an army that's equipped with cutting-edge technology, or at least the 80s era of cutting edge. And often this technology is powered by occult relics that are found on the island. and you're trying to stop them. So in summary, you're a badass combat driver. You're on a tricked out rig. You're dropped on an island full of monsters and mysticism. And your mission is to stop a cabal of cultist terrorists from gaining control of the island's powerful resources. As far as the game design and game features goes, this is a roguelike. You would attempt essentially run after run, experimenting with different strategies and loadouts, progressing deeper and deeper into the island. Each run consists of a series of procedural levels made from handmade tiles and randomized elements, such as missions, enemies, secret areas, and loot. As you can see, this GIF here in the top right corner is showing how the tiles will be randomized and combined, and then the little red areas show how the different encounters will spawn different elements within them. Gameplay varies across biomes, ranging from ancient jungle ruins to naval yards to otherworldly spirit realms, each gated by a boss. And between each levels, players will return to their home base, similar to Helldivers 2 or Deep Rock Galactic, where players can use their permanent currency. They can recruit and promote crew members, where each crew member can essentially unlock different capabilities. So for example, you can recruit and promote the mechanic that unlocks new vehicles, different classes and tiers, whereas recruiting the archaeologist unlocks new occult artifacts with mystical powers and provides a codex to record the legendary creatures and mystical artifacts that you discovered during your run. And this base evolves over time, and it reflects the player's unique progression and adds new layers of depth and choice in every playthrough. So now I will show you a demo of our prototype. I think I'm gonna have to change our screen share on Discord so I can share the game. This is gonna be fun. Normally this is why I normally say for doing pitch meetings with publishers, I really want to have like 4 monitors is the ideal. I usually have 3, but 4 would be better. I need a 4th, but now I only have 1, which makes this extra fun. Okay, plus we have this extra layer of complexity. Okay. All right. Things that are such as our UI and menus, which are kind of wireframe, but then some of the core gameplay is further along. So I'll dive right in. It's a twin stick shooter. Our game is recommended to be played with gamepad, as you see here, but you can also play with mouse and keyboard.
Task Force, this is Strike Control. Welcome to Snake Island. Proceed north to choose your loadout, then continue on mission.
You can see here some of the great work by our very own Alex Layden, who's built a lot of this environment. But this is essentially you dropped on an island. Here, the helicopter has dropped you off. You get a little bit of story dialogue. So the dialogue is told to you through these characters that talk to you with little dialogue pop-ups. This is just a kind of introductory area where you can navigate around and get your bearings. It is twin stick, so it's left stick to move, right stick to shoot. You can see the indicators that we have here, which indicate where your next mission is. So here we have a loadout of basically 2 different options you can choose between either a shotgun and a shield loadout or a grenade and an EMP, which gives you different essentially secondary weapons and abilities. In the full game, this would happen at your home base where you choose your loadout before you start on a run. But this being our first playable prototype, we just kind of incorporated it here, so you can actually play through the demo twice with the 2 different loadouts.
Follow the navigation waypoints to reach the enemy base to the east. Take out any enemies along the way.
I swear, our game doesn't normally do that. It's something to share. Great. So anyway, I've encountered some first enemies here. I've got enough XP to level up. So as you gain XP, you can stack a level up here, and then at any time basically press Y to level up. So you can choose between 3 randomized rewards that give you a boost your gameplay. These rewards will stack over time. So you can see this is inspired by Survivor-like gameplay. So I will, and you can choose different builds sort of based on your choices throughout these things. So I'll choose the fire rate and continue along on mission. So that, yeah, this is kind of a slow ramp up to my first objective here. Locate the enemy base. Oh no, the road is out. Okay. So for this demo, it's, you know, typically in the final game, it'll be essentially a randomized world like in typical roguelike. For this demo, it's more or less a linear, handcrafted experience that we build just to kind of showcase the gameplay. So this is breadcrumbing me to my next objective. So I've gotten a secondary mission. You can see the yellow indicators indicate that this is a secondary objective. I can choose to ignore this if I want, or I could kind of risk it and fight these guys to get some additional rewards. So I'll take out these fuel tanks. So I have a shotgun as my secondary weapon that I chose with my loadout. I can do that with right trigger. And then I also have the shield ability that you saw as well.
Proceed on mission.
So I'll continue to level up, continue to stack upgrades. Let's see, get some health. With left trigger, I've got a nitro. The nitro is limited. So in this case, my mission tells me to keep continuing to the right here across this bridge, but I see this enemy encampment down here, so I can choose to kind of go off the main path and see what's down here. So now I have a new mission, essentially another side mission that I can do here. And this is where we start showing off some of kind of our swarm mechanics. So these drones are coming at me and like continually spawning swarm.
Proceed on mission.
Super fire rate. We'll continue on.
Across the river, black market arms dealers can provide unique upgrades.
can see here we got a little bit of a sort of a camera change and a reveal. We got a monster coming by. So this kind of hints at, you know, there's more to this island than just a military action. There's some monsters and it's a little bit of foreshadowing of what you'll see in the future. But in any case, this is where I'll stop the demo. And this is where we tell the publishers they can play it later to see the rest at this point. And if you care to see what the rest of the demo is, come and check it out after my talk. Oh no, I got to start my stream again. Okay. All right. So many tabs. Okay. All right, so I got a couple more slides here. Basically, this is our development roadmap. We've got about 18 months of development remaining from now until our release on PC and console. Additionally, our plan for Gunmetal Overdrive extends beyond just the initial release of the game, which we're currently subtitling Primal Road. But we see Gunmetal Overdrive as a franchise that can expand out over many different dimensions and settings, ranging from futuristic to post-apocalypse. And this could be everything from DLC to expansions to even sequels. This is where kind of that Stargate comes into it, where there'll be different worlds that you can travel but continue the same base gameplay. Yeah, and so that's pretty much all for the pitch. You know, we're looking for a publisher that can help with funding for the rest of the game, as well as marketing for release. And this is also where I would tell the publisher how much I love their games or how our game is such a great fit for them, which is hopefully true. So anyway, that is our pitch. So essentially, once you have a demo and a pitch deck, I guess the next thing is figuring out which publishers you're going to target. And so this is an interesting sort of planning moment, but obviously you want to target publishers who publish games that, one, are in your target platform. So don't pitch a mobile publisher if you're making a console game, and vice versa. You also want to pitch publishers that are in the same sort of budget range of the game that, however much money you're looking to make, looking to fund. And then, preferably you're looking to pitch publishers who would be interested in your game. It's like the type of publisher, maybe they have certain games that they publish of certain style, and you want to go with that. So there are a few very helpful places. So the Game Maker Toolkit notebook has a bunch of links for different publisher lists, which are super helpful, and I can't find them at the moment, but I have one here pulled up. So this is an example of a publisher guide. So essentially, this is published by someone named, let's see, used to have their name on here. I believe it's Saeed that publishes this. Yes, Saeed. So yeah, Saeed has been super helpful in creating this publisher database, essentially, which is a public spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet, and it's got a list of like every publisher you can imagine, and it's organized by various different categories that you can see here. So obviously it tells you which country they're from, which platforms they publish for. They have even some example games. The other cool thing is it's got a budget and some other information about how well this publisher communicates, which is helpful. So This can kind of give you an idea, so these publishers with $3 signs, if you look on this handy thing, so those are 1 million budget and higher, 250,000 to $1 million is $2 signs, etc. So there's, yeah, as you can see, a huge list here. And for our game, so far, I think we've reached out to like 80-something publishers. I don't know. So there are quite a few. And then there's also an open. So that's like a curated one where this guy is like pretty much done all the research on all these publishers. And then there's an open one as well, where anyone can add to this as well, and that has some even further additional ones. So I've definitely, and even as we were pitching, there were like new publishers that just formed, and then there were also publishers that we pitched to that shut down while we were pitching. So certainly there's a lot of activity in the market, but in any case, this is a really good resource for that. Okay, so those are the things you must have. And yeah, so I mentioned earlier, it's nice to have sort of interest, proof of interest in your game and traction and all of that. Yeah, something I didn't mention earlier is industry awards. I recommend if you do have a game that you're pitching, send it into different contests. There's tons of, and even the Game Maker Toolkit notebook has that as well, just like tons of opportunities of things you can do, Pocket Gamer Awards, different, obviously the IGF and a bunch of other indie game awards programs, and that helps you get more notoriety within your within industry. So once you have your game, your pitch deck, and then your target publishers, what do you do? So obviously, you see this list here of, you're going to reach out to 100 publishers. How do you reach out to them? There's different ways to go about it, and some are better than others. The number one suggestion I would say is try to connect with the publishers personally. If you either know someone who works at a publisher, know someone else who's already talked to a publisher that can connect you with them, or you could go to events like GDC or other industry conferences where publishers are at. You can talk to them directly there. And then also networking on LinkedIn. Some of these lists, yeah, so like Saeed's list here, it'll say, if you want to pitch a tiny build, this guy, Tom Bryan, is the guy to talk to, and it's got a link to his LinkedIn page, and then you can go and you can reach out to him on LinkedIn. I don't know why this isn't loading. So anyway, that's sort of like my initial recommendation. Always try to make a personal connection. Try to talk to them first before you pitch the game. You probably won't have a lot of success with that with a lot of publishers, because a lot of publishers just won't talk to people or are very hard to get in contact with. So then your next step is to go to their website. They usually have a form that you need to fill out, or a certain email address that you need to contact, and do it that way. So typically you want to try to pitch your game live if you can, which is part of the reason why you try to connect with people personally. You try to schedule a meeting to do a pitch, or you go to a conference where you can pitch directly to them. A lot of publishers won't even let you do this. They're like, we don't have meetings, just send us your pitch deck and send us your video and your demo, and then we'll just get back to you. That is not the greatest way to do it, because it lacks all context, for your game, and they're just pretty much going off of whatever they see in your pitch. But that is the only way for some publishers, unfortunately. Then the last thing here is practicing your pitch. As you can, the pitch that we show, we practiced it a bunch. We got a bunch of feedback. I recommend, showing your pitch to, people here and other people in the industry, your friends, etc., that you can pitch to and give you good feedback. Also, Indie Game Business does pitch deck reviews, like I mentioned, on their Discord. So that's another great way to get really good feedback on your pitch deck. And even so far as you can hire consultants to give you pitch information. The Powell Group, who runs Indie Game Business, if you want like a deep dive from them on your pitch, they will do a full review for a price. And so all of that can really help you. So once you reach out to publishers, you want to track your publisher communication. I have a spreadsheet of like every publisher we reach out to. What's the status? When's the last time I contacted them? Typically, you'll have to contact publishers multiple times to get a response. So it's like this publisher, 2 weeks ago, I sent him my first email, and then now I'm going to do a follow-up. Or like this publisher, I followed up with him 3 times, and they never responded. I'm going to follow up again. I recommend continuing to follow up as many times as you can until you get a response, until you give up, I guess, at some point. But some of these publishers, I've reached out to them many times, didn't hear anything to the 4th email. I have like a LinkedIn thread with a publisher that I messaged him like 7 times, never got a response to the 8th one, and then we had a meeting. So they are very busy and can really kind of depends on what they're doing. And then I had one publisher, I sent something to their email a bunch of times, and they finally got back to me, and it was like, oh, our email was broken, and I only just now got your email. In any case, don't give up with that. I think this could be a very slow process for sure. And then the other thing, essentially, once you start getting feedback from publishers, that can also be super helpful, because some publishers will give you very detailed feedback. They'll test your game. They'll give you very specific action items or things that they think you can improve on. I do recommend not just acting like on the advice of a single publisher. Oftentimes they might be only looking at it from one angle or whatever. So you want to kind of take feedback from a number of different publishers and then kind of see what the consensus is. Oftentimes, some publishers will even say, oh, if you just added this one feature, we'd be interested. A lot of times that isn't really true. You don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of like adding specific stuff to your game just for one single publisher, because you could waste a lot of time in that, and like, especially if you're going away from your vision or whatever. And that is my presentation. So yeah, anybody have any questions, or if you want to come and play the game afterwards, then I'll give you a chance to as well. Yes.
In your business plan, when you're doing this pitch, do you also include a possibility timeline if you don't get funding, showing that you and your team and y'all are still capable of concluding the games? That way it feels like it's a short thing and they just want to be a part of this.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, because in that, a lot of what I would think would happen in a lot of cases is the publisher would be like, oh, we'll just wait till you're done and then get back to me. So you want to kind of, yeah, if you don't, maybe you don't need them. And if you don't need them, maybe, so that goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you can finish the game on your own, maybe you shouldn't really need a publisher. There's, some debate on, how much a publisher will really help you outside of funding. Certainly, if you can get signed by a publisher like Devolver or someone who has a huge marketing reach, that could be extremely beneficial. But if you can complete the game on your own and do your own marketing, that is what we did with our first game, Road Redemption. We completed the game on our own. We started selling it on Steam Early Access and kind of funded it that way. But yeah, as I say, most people, when you're approaching publishers, you need the money. Right.
What level dollar sign publishers are you looking at?
We're looking between $1 and $2 million budget for this game. Yeah. Which we've gotten a lot of feedback. Even the publishers that say they're in the $1 million above dollar sign tier, according to the spreadsheet, are coming back like, we really are only investing, $500,000 or whatever it is. A lot of publishers now are being more conservative and funding at lower levels, or waiting till your game is further along so that you need less money, et cetera. So.
Do you have to give them like a, like a financial, I guess that's part of the business plan part, the company developers you have on the team and things like that?
Yeah, certainly. I would say if a publisher is interested, based off of just the high level, then basically the next thing they always would ask for is like, okay, I need to see the milestone plan, I need to see the resource plan, like, yeah, what's the budget breakdown and that sort of thing. Yeah, and then some publishers would want to know, how much money have you invested already, and that sort of thing, or do you have any other outside funding?
Would the part of it be like the funding that you get from the publisher would compensate the company for its investment in the original product?
I would say it would be more like it factors into the deal that they offer you, where it's like, oh, you've already invested 20% of the budget, therefore we can maybe give you a better royalty rate or something like that. That's kind of usually how that goes. Never will they, for example, like refund you the money or give you like a first chance at revenue or something like that, I would think. Chris.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. So let's say you're looking for publishers right now. Of course, there's always the like kind of forming a group of investors, bringing them together, trying to get the games funded that way, and then going back to publishers saying, "We've got this game made." Like, that's always an option. I'm sure you've thought about that before.
Yeah.
When you look at that type of thing, you look at the different pitches you might do. Of course, when you're pitching to a publisher, they're kind of used to playing games, so they're going to play the demo and they're going to be interested in all the information you provided around like how the map is procedurally generated and stuff like that. When you're pitching to an investor, so kind of solely an investor, how does your pitch change?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. I guess what I was talking about here is specifically for pitching publishers. We are looking for funding from publishers, but it is a very different pitch when you're pitching investors, certainly. And it depends a great deal on which investors you're pitching to. So we pitched some investors that they have specific game investment funds. So they're like a publisher in that they fund games, but they don't do any of the actual publishing aspect to it. They expect you to self-publish, and they'll help you. So those sorts of investors, it's pretty much the same pitch because they kind of already know. But if you're pitching to like a generic tech VC or something like that, yeah, they don't really care as much about your game design, and it's a lot more about the numbers and your market and your market opportunity and that sort of thing. Yeah, competitive analysis, market opportunity. What's unique about your product that would be, and that is probably even more necessary to show some sort of traction as well in that case. But I would say I don't have a lot of experience with that because we've been mainly pitching to publishers. And there is, one of the things I forgot to mention, so indie game business, one of the resources they provide is a publisher and investor list. And yeah, this has a list of 1,400 publishers and investors, which if you sign up for this, we've only been focusing on the publisher side of it, but they also have a huge list of investors you can reach out to as well. And that's mostly VCs and other more. And so the difference in that typically is those sort of investors are looking for company equity. So if you're pitching for that, it's normally pitching your company and pitching for company equity and trade for funding. Whereas when you're pitching to a publisher, you're just pitching the project. They're only investing in the project, and they don't want equity in your company. Usually, there are some exceptions, but.
We have a question from the stream chat. How do you know how much a budget should be to avoid lowballing yourself or asking for way too much?
Yeah, I think you just need to be realistic about it. So like, what is a realistic, you need to, who's working on the project, what's a legitimate salary that those people would be paid, and then estimate how much it's going to cost to make that, and that's how you would estimate it, because that's how publishers don't want you to lowball them or like come up with something crazy. They want something that looks like numbers that make sense. So they want to be able to know, like, okay, yeah, we understand how you have 10 people and they're each getting paid this amount, and so this is what your budget is.
I guess I was curious, how much do you think your pitch would change if you was, I guess, targeting mobile developers? Since mobile gaming is a vastly different ecosystem than standard games.
So we've done some pitches for mobile, and my experience with that is almost you can't find a publisher if you haven't released your game. So publishers want to, so the main thing that would be different is publishers want to see that you've soft launched your game. What's your number of users? What's your retention rate? What's your lifetime value of your users? And that's like every mobile publisher that you'll talk to, that's going to be like the initial questions that they'll always ask. And that's like, to even start a conversation, you have to have like certain level of these numbers for them to talk to you.
Yeah, because when tying back to what you were saying in terms of like, if you approached a publisher like a mobile publisher, even your game pretty much has to be released.
Yeah.
And their job is to get you downloads essentially. Because in the mobile space, it's it's pretty much freemium most of the time. So you bank off of them being able to drive traffic to you to get downloads.
For sure. Yeah, mobile publishers most often are looking to scale games, so they look for games that are already released or have some amount of proven metrics, and then they help you scale. They pay for user acquisition, that sort of thing. There are some exceptions to that on the premium side. So if you're doing a premium game, or if you are doing a game that's going to be on Apple Arcade, for example, or something like that, those opportunities can be different for you to actually get money to develop games for those instances. But yeah, if it's purely free to play, yes, typically they want your game released for the most part. Any other questions? No. Great. We're good. Everyone clapped for me. That was crazy.
Everyone clapped. Thank you all for joining us tonight for the meetup. Thank you, Jason, for coming out all this way from Baton Rouge to show us Gunmetal Overdrive. I'm going to press the stop stream